Welcome back to the deep dive. I'm going to be honest with you right off the bat. Today is going to be a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's definitely not a light listen.
No, it is not. It is going to be heavy. And for a lot of you listening, it might confirm some suspicions you have had for years, things you were maybe told you were crazy for thinking.
Right. We are not talking about the latest iPhone or, a productivity hack today.
No. We usually talk about trends or tech or history, but today we are talking about a feeling, a very specific feeling that I think a lot of men have, but they just cannot quite put a name to.
That sense of entropy.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. It is that sense that things are not just changing, they feel like they are unraveling.
The fabric of society is getting threadbare.
Right, and the rules you were raised to play by, work hard, be honest, take responsibility, those have suddenly changed without anyone sending you the memo.
Yeah, like things are winding down or breaking apart and nobody seems to know how to stop it.
Or worse.
Right. Or worse, that the people in charge are actively accelerating it.
Exactly. But the source material we are covering today argues that it is not just bad luck, it is not just entropy or the natural decay of things. The author argues it is a mechanism.
That it is intentional.
Yes. We are doing a deep dive into an ebook called Save the Boys, Fight the Catabolic State by Conrad Riker.
Now look, he does not pull punches in this one.
He really does not. And if you are the kind of person who wants the unvarnished raw truth, even if it hurts, you need to hit that like and subscribe button right now.
We are trying to beat the algorithm here.
We are, and this is exactly the kind of content that gets buried because it questions the standard narrative. So like and subscribe to help push this out.
Riker actually calls this book a weapon. He calls it a battle plan.
He does. And if you are listening to this and you feel that slow suffocation we're about to describe, that feeling that the walls are closing in on masculinity itself, you need to do yourself a favor. Go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books immediately and buy Save the Boys, Fight the Catabolic State.
Honestly, book might be too soft a word for it. It reads more like an indictment.
It really does. So
Okay.
do not just listen to us talk about it today. Get the manual. You need to read the primary source. And for the stuff that is too hot, even for the book platforms, you have got to follow him at Conrad and Riker on Substack.
Absolutely. The Substack is where the real trenches are dug. That is where the uncensored analysis happens.
But let us get into the meat of this, the title, the catabolic state.
I think most people hear catabolic and they think of bodybuilders maybe, or biology.
Yeah, let us unpack that because it
Yeah.
is the central metaphor of the entire argument Riker is making. Can we define that for the listeners who maybe skipped bio class?
Sure. So in biology, you have two primary states of metabolism, anabolic and catabolic.
Okay.
Anabolic is the building phase. It is when your body is creating muscle, storing energy, repairing tissue. It is growth, basically.
Like when you're hitting the gym and eating right.
Exactly. It is positive. But the opposite is catabolic. This is the breaking down phase.
Breaking things apart.
Right. It is taking complex molecules and breaking them apart to release energy.
Yeah.
Now, in a healthy body, you need a little bit of catabolism to access energy.
Sure, you need fuel.
But if your body becomes purely catabolic, like if you were starving, it starts consuming its own muscle tissue just to keep the vital organs running.
Wow.
Yeah, it literally eats itself to survive.
And Riker is applying this biological concept directly to Western civilization.
That is the core thesis here. He is arguing that the West is no longer anabolic. We're not building new institutions. We're not building strong new families or creating new cultural
That
capital.
they're just consuming.
We're in a catabolic state. He says we are actively consuming the foundations of our own society, like merit, logic, the nuclear family, due process just to feed a parasitic ideology.
We are burning the furniture to heat the house.
That is exactly it.
That is a terrifying image, honestly. Civilization eating its own muscles just to keep the lights on for one more day.
It is. And he is writing this specifically for a certain audience.
Right, this is not for the mainstream media critics.
No, he is writing this for the men who feel this happening. The men's rights activists, the red-pilled manosphere, the guys who look around their office or their kid's school and realize the game is rigged against them.
He calls it a slow suffocation in the text.
Yeah.
It is that feeling that speaking the truth will cost you your job, or that raising your son to be a strong man will instantly get him labeled as a problem.
Exactly. And Riker frames this deep dive we are doing as a mission. We are going to trace the history, according to his book, of how our institutions, from the schools your kids go to the HR department you report to, were captured.
And he argues this was not an accident at all. He says it was a convergence of feminism and Marxism.
Now hold on. Marxism is thrown around a lot these days. It has become a bit of a buzzword.
Right, gets overused. Does Riker mean actual economic Marxism here, or is he using it as a shorthand for something else?
Well, he is being very specific in the book. He is talking about the dialectic.
The oppressor versus oppressed framework.
Yes, the idea of history being a constant struggle between oppressor and oppressed. In classical Marxism, it is the bourgeoisie, the owners, versus the proletariat, the workers.
Okay.
Riker argues that modern feminism simply swapped the terms. It is now men as the oppressor class versus women as the oppressed class.
So it is not about equality anymore.
According to him, no. The goal of a dialectic is never equality. The goal is the overthrow of the oppressor.
So it is a pure power struggle. And to win that struggle, you have to destroy the institutions the oppressor built.
Correct. Which brings us to the first battlefield he lays out. If you want to destroy a civilization, you do not start with the tax code.
No, you do not start with the military either.
You start with the stories. You start with the imagination of the child.
This section on metamorphosis really stuck with me. It is all about the war on archetypes. Riker brings up data from the Parents' Rights Institute regarding animated films.
This is where you see the programming in action. Listen to this stat from the book. Since 2015, 78% of animated films feature fathers who are either absent, incompetent, or villainous,
78%. That is nearly 8 out of 10 movies.
up from just 22% in the 90s.
That is a massive cultural shift in just one generation.
It is. We went from dad is a normal, necessary part of the family to dad is a problem that needs to be solved.
Riker uses The Lion King as the baseline for what we lost. And honestly, thinking back to that movie, Mufasa is the dad.
He is the ultimate archetype. He is not just a buddy to Simba. He is the king. He represents the law, the order of nature.
When he disciplines Simba after the elephant graveyard scene, it is firm but loving.
Right, he sets clear boundaries. And even after he dies, he appears in the clouds to say, remember who you are.
That line gives me chills every time. You are more than what you have become.
Exactly. Is the father calling the son up to responsibility. It is the initiation into manhood. Mufasa is saying, you have a duty. You have a place in the great circle of life.
It is hierarchical and it is noble.
But look at modern films. Riker points to Frozen. That movie is an absolute juggernaut. But the parents, they just sort of die immediately, right?
Within the first 5 minutes, shipwreck and gone.
Riker argues this is a narrative convenience to remove authority. If the king and queen are there, Elsa has a structure to work within.
She has rules.
By killing the parents, the story becomes about internal truth and letting it go. Unrestrained emotion without the check of tradition or authority.
There is no father to say, control your power.
Exactly.
Okay, but parents dying in Disney movies is kind of a trope. Bambi's mom and so on.
Sure, tragedy is a trope, but erasure is different. Take Onward. This is the one that Riker says is the smoking gun. Have you seen it?
I have not actually, but reading the description in the book, it sounds bizarre.
It is visceral. The plot is about two boys trying to bring their dead dad back from the dead using magic, but the spell fails halfway through. They only get his legs.
Just the legs, like khakis and shoes.
It's just the lower half. For the entire movie, the father figure, the thing they are yearning for, is a stumbling blind, mute pair of legs on a leash.
Wow.
Riker argues this is the perfect metaphor for the modern boy's experience. The father is a fragment, he is voiceless, he is incomplete.
He cannot guide you. You have to drag him around.
He is a burden, not a leader.
That is grotesque, actually, when you put it that way. It is reducing the patriarch to a prop.
And then take Brave, King Fergus. He is a warrior king, physically massive. He looks like he should be Mufasa. But how does the movie treat him?
He is the comic relief. He is a buffoon.
Exactly. He tells war stories that nobody listens to.
Right.
His wife manages him like a chaotic child. And he literally loses a leg to a bear.
Which Riker points out as symbolic castration.
Yes. The king is hobbled. He is less than whole. The message Riker says is that sure, dad is big and strong, but he's an idiot. Mom runs the show and the daughter knows better.
And then you have Luca and Moana.
In those films, the father represents the obstacle. He's the one saying, do not go past the reef or do not go to the surface. He represents fear and control.
To become a hero, the child must disobey the father.
Right. The father's wisdom is portrayed as outdated paranoia. He has to be replaced often by a female elder, like a grandmother figure, or just pure intuition.
So what does this do to a 6-year-old boy watching these movies on a loop?
It removes the hero's journey. Riker connects this to Joseph Campbell. The hero's journey requires an initiation into manhood, usually guided by a father figure or a mentor.
If you remove the father or make him a clown, boys are taught that their instincts, competition, strength, the desire to initiate are defects.
They are taught that the father is an obstacle to their truth rather than the guide to it.
It is psychological colonization.
Precisely. The mind of the boy is conquered before he even hits puberty. He is taught that the archetype of a good father does not exist. There are only goofy dads or tyrannical dads.
So he has no model to aspire to.
And Riker traces this back to theory. This is not just lazy writing in Hollywood.
No, he cites radical feminist theorists like Shulamith Firestone and Catherine McKinnon.
They argued decades ago that the patriarchal family is the root of oppression.
Firestone explicitly argued that to free women, you have to destroy the biological family unit.
You have to break the bond between father and son.
So Onward having a dad who is just a pair of legs is theory in practice.
It is the cultural manifestation of the idea that the father is obsolete.
Okay, so they capture the imagination through stories, but that is not enough to control a society. You need mechanisms.
Right.
Riker moves from movies to what he calls the mechanism, the language play.
This is where we get into the Orwellian stuff. Linguistic engineering. Riker points out a 400% increase in the word equity in books since 1980.
We hear that word constantly now, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But Riker makes a hard distinction between equity and equality.
It is a crucial distinction. Equality is the start line. We all stand at the same line, the gun goes off, and whoever runs fastest wins.
That is the traditional American ethos, equality of opportunity.
Equity is the finish line. It guarantees that everyone finishes at the same time. And the only way to do that is to hamstring the fast runners.
Or put them in a penalty box.
Right. Riker calls it satanic conversion.
That is a very heavy term. What exactly does he mean by that?
He uses it to describe how words are flipped to mean their exact opposite. Take inclusion, for example.
Okay.
If you have a private men's club and the state forces them to include women, that is called inclusion. But if you have women's safe space and you exclude men, that is also called inclusion.
So inclusion just means diluting male spaces.
Exactly. The word functions like a one-way valve. It only flows against men. Or take safety.
Historically, safety meant I will not get punched in the face. Physical safety.
Now, safety means I will not hear an opinion that upsets me. So to make people safe, you have to silence dissent. Silence becomes safety. Speech becomes violence.
And the big one, toxic masculinity. I feel like this term has mutated completely over the years.
Riker points this out. The term actually came from the mythopoetic men's movement in the 80s.
Yeah.
Guys like Robert Bly.
They used it to describe a specific, narrow type of dysfunction, right?
Yes. The soft male who had no father figure and lashed out, or the violent alcoholic. It was a diagnostic tool to help men heal.
And now?
Now it is a bludgeon. It has been hijacked. It is used to pathologize normal male behavior.
Competitiveness.
Toxic.
Stoicism. Toxic. Wanting to be the provider. Toxic benevolent sexism. Riker argues it is a trap. If you defend your masculinity, you are toxic. If you apologize for it, you are admitting you are toxic.
It is a lose-lose situation. And this language has migrated from the universities directly into the corporation. Riker cites Microsoft specifically in the book.
The corporate capture is total. Riker points to Microsoft training materials that explicitly state merit is a myth.
Pause on that. Microsoft. The company Bill Gates built by being ruthlessly smarter and more aggressive than everyone else.
The irony is blinding. Riker notes that this is the catabolic state in action. Microsoft can afford to say merit is a myth now because they are sitting on $1 trillion of capital built by merit in the 90s.
They are burning the furniture to heat the house. You cannot build a Microsoft on equity. You can only milk one on equity.
And it is not just abstract training. It affects how people are treated day to day. The Kevin versus Kelly study really nails this down.
This is a Stanford study Riker brings up. Researchers took a performance review or an email. It was aggressive, direct, no nonsense. They sent it to tech workers. Half received it signed by Kevin, half received it signed by Kelly.
Same words, same punctuation.
Identical in every way.
Eh.
And the results. When it was signed Kevin, it was rated 68% more aggressive than when it was signed Kelly.
Wait, I would have thought the opposite. I thought the narrative was that women get called bossy for being assertive.
That is the narrative.
Yeah.
The data says otherwise. When a man is direct, it is read as aggression or toxicity. When a woman is direct, it is read as empowerment or just standard business.
Riker argues this destroys the concept of tone policing.
Men are constantly told it is not what you said, it is how you said it. But this study proves that how you said it is judged entirely by who you are.
So if you are a guy, you are walking into a minefield every time you hit send on an email.
And the HR department is the one burying the mines. Riker describes HR as gossip networks with legal power.
That is a brutal description. But how does he justify that claim?
He grounds it in evolutionary psychology. He argues that historically men resolved conflict through direct confrontation, sometimes physical, sometimes verbal. It was over quickly.
Women traditionally used reputation destruction, gossip, social exclusion to police norms within the tribe. It was a survival mechanism.
Right, the mean girls dynamic, but for actual survival.
But when you move that into a trillion-dollar corporation and give it the power to fire people and blacklist them, it becomes a totalitarian surveillance state.
You could be destroyed for a rumor, for a vibe. Riker argues modern HR has formalized that female social strategy into corporate policy.
He mentions the engineer fired for emotional detachment.
This case is the perfect example of this. The guy was competent, he did his work. But during team meetings, he did not want to share his vulnerabilities. He did not want to engage in the emotional check-ins. He just wanted to code.
And HR fired him?
HR fired him.
For doing his job.
For only doing his job. In the catabolic state, competence is secondary to emotional conformity. If you do not validate the group's feelings, you are a hostile element.
It was almost like compelled speech. You must participate in the ritual.
It is compelled speech, and it starts way before the job market. It starts in kindergarten.
Let us move to the education crisis. Because if you have kids, specifically boys, this section hits home really hard. Riker calls it the erasure of boyhood.
It is the matriarchal script. We have designed schools that are perfect for girls. Sit still, face forward, listen, use your words, color inside the lines.
And we punish anyone who does not fit that mold.
The statistics are wild here. Boys are expelled at much higher rates for non-compliance, which basically just means being a boy. And ADHD diagnoses 92% of prescriptions go to boys.
We are medicating an entire gender. Riker asks the obvious question. Is it really a disease, or is it just being a boy in an environment that hates boys?
We are drugging them because they have energy that makes the teacher uncomfortable.
There was that UCLA study he brought up about rough play.
Yes. Researchers watch kids on a playground. They looked for rough and tumble play, wrestling, shoving, chasing.
Natural kid stuff.
When girls did it off, teachers intervened about 5% of the time, often calling them spirited. When boys did the exact same thing, teachers intervened significantly more often. I think the stat was 3.2 times more.
And they use language like aggressive or toxic.
So the boy learns early on, my natural way of playing is evil.
And Riker argues that rough play is actually crucial for moral development.
It is. When boys wrestle, they learn limits. Oh, I twisted his arm too hard and he cried. I will not do that again. They learn empathy through physicality.
If you stop the wrestling, you do not get peaceful boys. You get socially stunted boys who do not know their own strength.
You create sociopaths or cowards.
And then you add the actual curriculum on top of the behavioral policing, the genderbread person.
It's common in schools now. It is a visual aid, a cookie man that breaks a person down into identity, expression, attraction, and sex. And it teaches that these are all independent sliders you can mix and match.
Riker calls this Gnosticism with crayons.
That is a deep cut, but it is highly accurate. Gnosticism is an ancient heresy that says the physical body is a prison and the real you is a spirit trapped inside.
So the genderbread person teaches kids that their body, their biological reality, is irrelevant to who they actually are.
Right. You might have a boy body, but you could be a girl inside. It completely disconnects the child from material reality.
And to make that stick, Riker argues they had to kill the trivium.
This is the intellectual anchor of the book. The trivium is the classical method of education that built Western civilization. It has 3 parts: grammar, logic, and rhetoric.
Break those down for us really quick.
Grammar is the mechanics of language. It names things: who, what, where. Logic is the mechanics of thought. It connects things: why, how, cause, and effect.
And rhetoric is the transmission of thought. It persuades.
And Riker says they removed the logic.
It decapitated it. Modern education focuses on expression, which is rhetoric, and identity, which is a twisted form of grammar, but skips logic completely.
Why? Because logic is the immune system of the mind.
How so?
If a child understands the law of non-contradiction, that A cannot be non-A at the same time, then gender theory collapses. You cannot be a male and a female. You cannot be a boy who's a girl. Logic forbids it.
So to install the ideology, you have to uninstall logic.
That is why words like therefore and thus are disappearing from textbooks.
Riker tracks this. Causal language is vanishing. Instead of A happened, therefore B happened, we get A happened and B happened.
It removes agency. It removes cause and effect. It creates a logic of inversion where feelings override facts.
This leads to the teaching that 2 + 2 = 4 is a colonial construct. I have seen this on Twitter, but is it actually in schools?
Riker cites the equitable math framework used in California and Oregon. It explicitly states that focusing on getting the right answer is a symptom of white supremacy culture.
That is insane. I mean, bridges fall down if you do not get the right answer.
Riker argues that is exactly the point. If 2 + 2 = 4 is objectively true, then there is a reality outside of your feelings.
And if there is an objective reality, the ideology loses.
So they have to attack the very concept of objective truth. They have to make math subjective.
It is gaslighting on a civilizational scale.
It creates a population that is easily manipulated because they have no anchor in reality.
Which brings us to the legal system. Because if you cannot reason, you cannot have justice. Riker calls this section the law of revenge.
This is where the blood really starts to boil when you read it. We have seen this shift from the bedrock of innocent until proven guilty to believe all women.
We see this on college campuses with Title IX tribunals.
Riker calls them kangaroo courts. In a Title IX hearing, you often do not have the right to a lawyer. You do not have the right to cross-examine your accuser.
And the standard of proof is preponderance of evidence, basically 50.1% certainty.
It is a lower bar than a traffic ticket.
He tells the story of the dream assault at Brandeis. I need you to walk us through this because it honestly sounds like fiction.
It is real. A male student was accused of sexual misconduct. The accuser stated she had a dream where he assaulted her and she woke up feeling violated and unsafe.
She admitted it was a dream.
Yes, she fully admitted it happened while she was sleeping, and the university still pursued the case.
How can they justify that?
They argued that because she felt unsafe, he was a threat.
So his objective innocence mattered less than her subjective nightmare.
That is the catabolic state. Reality is subordinate to narrative. The feeling of the victim trumps the rights of the accused.
And this extends directly to the family courts. Riker calls them debt collection agencies.
If you're a man going through a divorce, you know this firsthand. Women initiate 73% of divorces.
No-fault divorce means a woman can leave for any reason. I am just not happy, I am bored.
And the state will use its power to extract resources from the man to maintain her lifestyle.
The Florida paternity fraud case, that one hurt to read.
$180,000. That is what this man paid.
He paid child support for 14 years. Then a DNA test proved the child was not his. The mother admitted she knew all along.
So it was fraud. By any logical definition, yes.
But the court ruled that he still owed the money.
Their logic was the best interests of the child. Since he had acted as the father, he was financially on the hook.
So the actual biological father is off the hook?
Often, yes. Riker argues this reveals the true function of the family court. It is not about justice. It is about ensuring the state does not have to pay for the kid.
They just need a male wallet attached to the child. Whether it is the right wallet does not matter to them.
It is the financialization of victimhood.
And the complete erasure of the father. The check is cash, but the dad is pushed to the margins. Every other weekend, maybe.
Even though all the statistics show that fatherless homes are factories for suicide, drug use, and incarceration.
We celebrate the single mom as a hero, but we ignore the graveyard of outcomes she often presides over.
Riker says we are prioritizing the autonomy of the mother over the survival of the child.
Let us go even deeper. We have covered culture, language, schools, law. But Riker says even science is not safe. The war on reality.
This is the scariest part for the long term. We trust science to be neutral. But Riker discusses the citation gap.
What exactly is that?
It is soft censorship. If a study comes out that supports gender ideology, like gender is a spectrum, it gets cited thousands of times.
But if a study comes out that contradicts it, showing biological sex differences,
it gets cited 30% less, even if the methodology is perfect. Researchers are afraid to cite it because they do not want to be associated with bad ideas.
So the consensus is entirely manufactured.
Exactly. If you silence the dissenters, the only thing left is the consensus.
And if soft censorship does not work, they use hard censorship. James Demore.
The Google memo. Everyone remembers the outrage over that. He said women cannot code.
Which he absolutely did not say.
Not at all. He cited peer-reviewed psychology papers showing that on average, men are more interested in things and systems, and women are more interested in people.
He was trying to explain why there was a gender gap in engineering. without just blaming sexism. He was trying to help Google.
And he was fired for blasphemy.
He was fired because he suggested that biology plays a role in outcome.
In the catabolic state, biology is the enemy. It is the ultimate inequality that cannot be fixed, so it simply must be denied.
Riker mentions cardiology too, which is terrifying.
This is where people literally die. Men and women have different heart attack symptoms. They metabolize drugs differently.
But there is a push in medical journals to suppress data on sex differences because it is exclusionary to focus on biological sex.
So if a doctor treats a woman like a small man because he is afraid to acknowledge the difference she could die, Riker calls it medical malpractice via ideology.
Finally, the last pillar to fall, faith, the feminization of faith.
Riker points to the divine softness. Walk into a modern church. The songs are emotional ballads. The sermons are all about feelings and inclusion.
The statue. He describes a statue of Jesus that looked like a melted marshmallow.
Yeah, we have lost the warrior saint. St. Michael the Archangel, the guy with the sword standing on the neck of Satan, is pushed to the back.
We have replaced male moral duty like strength, protection, sacrifice with female emotional expression.
And then DEI becomes the new religion.
Riker argues wokeism is a Christian heresy.
It keeps the original sin, privilege, whiteness, maleness. It keeps the confession with the struggle sessions, but it removes the redemption.
There's no cross.
There is no forgiveness. You can never be unwhite or unmale. You can only apologize forever. It is a religion of perpetual guilt.
Okay, we have painted a really bleak picture here. The metamorphosis, the language plague, the education crisis, the legal fracture, science sabotage, faith erosion.
It feels like the walls are closing in.
But Riker wrote a battle plan, not a eulogy. Let us talk about the solution. The resurrection code.
The core concept here is praxa.
Praxa, Greek for action.
Yes, practical application. Riker says we spend too much time at the digital coma, scrolling, getting angry, sharing memes. That changes nothing. We need to act.
And step one is the trivium revolt.
We have to relearn what the schools threw out. Grammar, logic, rhetoric. You cannot fight this ideology if you cannot spot a logical fallacy.
He tells the story of the high school debate team. This was a great moment in the book.
I love this part. A group of boys used Aristotelian logic to debate gender ideology. The other side used emotional appeals like, "You are hurting my feelings," or "That is hateful."
The boys did not take the bait.
They did not get angry at all. They just kept pointing out the contradictions. If gender is a construct, how can you be born in the wrong body?
And they won.
They crushed it. Riker says the ideology is brittle. It relies on social pressure, bullying you into silence. When you stand firm with logic, it completely crumbles.
But you have to know the logic. You have to teach your sons to think, not just to repeat.
Step 2 is physicality. Why does Riker care if I lift weights?
Soft bodies create soft thinking. It connects back to the biological reality.
The catabolic state wants you sedentary, medicated, and just consuming content. Going to the gym is an act of rebellion.
It is anabolic. You are building muscle. You are fighting entropy.
Plus, there is the testosterone factor. Testosterone is the hormone of effort. It makes effort feel good.
If you let yourself go physically, you lose the mental edge to fight the culture war. You become passive.
Step 3, parallel institutions. Stop trying to fix Disney. Stop trying to fix the public schools. They're too far gone.
Build your own. Homeschooling, co-ops, local businesses. Create networks that do not rely on the hostile HR system.
And finally, the hardest one, mentorship.
This is the catch-22. 62% of men say they are afraid to mentor a younger person, especially a woman, but even boys, because of the risk of false accusations.
The Mike Pence rule. Never be alone with a woman. That is now standard survival strategy.
But Riker says we have to do it anyway.
We have to mentor the boys. If good men retreat because they are scared, who is left to teach the boys?
The internet. The matriarchal script teachers.
If we abandon them, the catabolic state wins by default. We have to take the risk.
It is a call to courage.
It's a call to stop apologizing for existing.
The future is male. That is his closing statement in the book.
It is provocative, but he does not mean men will simply rule women. He means that the survival of the future depends on the return of masculine virtues.
Civilization requires maintenance. It requires defense. It requires logic.
These are the exact things we have labeled toxic. If we do not bring them back, the lights go out, the supply chains break, the bridge collapses.
We need the builders and the protectors back on the wall.
Precisely.
Look, we have covered a massive amount of ground, but we have still only scratched the surface. Riker has so much more data, so many more case studies in the book.
If this conversation fired you up or even just scared you a little bit, You need to read the full text.
Go to Amazon Kindle, go to Google Play Books. The ebook is Save the Boys, Fight the Catabolic State by Conrad Riker. And Riker asks for one specific thing: leave a 5-star review.
It is an active counter-revolution. The algorithm suppresses this stuff. Reviews help punch through the suppression.
And follow him, Conrad N. Riker, on Substack. That is where the community is. That is where the praxa happens.
You not just consume. Join the resistance.
I will leave you with one final thought to mull over. Riker talks about the capture of institutions, but think about the next frontier: artificial intelligence. What happens when the AI systems that will soon govern everything from loan approvals to medical diagnostics are trained exclusively on the inverted language of the catabolic state? We are not just fighting for the present institutions, we are fighting for the foundational code of the future. You are the resistance. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Remember to like and subscribe to beat the algorithm. Until next time, stay awake.
And stay strong.